Шановні гості, колеги, ми розпочинаємо. Раді вітати вас на вже 3-му конгресі «Розбудова послуг з психічного здоров'я в громадах». І почати ми його хочемо дуже з символічного моменту. Попросимо вас всіх встати. І зараз буде звучати наш державний гімн України. Героям слава! Шановні учасники.
Dear participants, and I would like to ask you not to take your seats because it is very important now to remember those who will never be able to sing the hymn together with us, the anthem with us. Well, those who gave us the opportunity to be here today and to speak about the mental health for the next generations of Ukrainians. A minute of silence. Please take your seats. We are very happy that this event is held for the 3rd year in a row, and that it is supported by our governmental bodies, because it's only in close cooperation of people, communities, and the government we will be able to build a healthy Ukrainian society. And I would like to give the floor to the head of the Khmelnytsky region military administration, Mr. Serhiy Churin. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to welcome you all here, and first of all I would like to thank all our international partners, all the experts who have come to this international congress to support, to help, to provide practical pieces of advice and help to make us stronger in solving the problems we are now facing because of the brutal full-scale war that has been waged since February 2022 as a result of the Russian aggression. The needs grow every day. And according to some preliminary data of the Ministry of Healthcare, the number of people who will require such psychological support amounts to 15 million of Ukrainians. These are combatants, veterans, the elderly, and also 4 million of children. Children who are an especially sensitive and vulnerable group. They are growing up now and they can't have a happy childhood because of the air raid alerts, because of the shellings, and because of all the news we hear every day and we see every day. And sometimes they also feel this news on themselves and their families, the impact on their health. So I should also note that this work is a priority at the national level, at the regional level, at the level of the communities. There are national programs. There is a mental health program, How Are You?, initiated by the First Lady Olena Zelenska and a priority of the Ministry of Healthcare for Ukraine. They are supporting mental health services within the system of healthcare. And I'm very grateful to everyone who is involved in this work. The Oblast administration and district administration, in cooperation with territorial communities, work on being able to provide free mental health support in all communities. This is the key to making sure that people get the necessary access to these services. I should note that we have rehabilitation centers in our region. In the municipal hospital and regional hospital, we have specialized facilities which are supported by the Ministry of Veterans. They have been established together with a sponsor company, and the veterans get the necessary help there. But we think that we need to have many centers like that so that everyone has an opportunity to get the necessary support and help in these difficult times. And I would like to wish everyone fruitful work, ability to find constructive and healthy solutions so that we can ensure that Ukrainians are strong, mentally strong, just as the steel will, a steel character of our soldiers on our path towards victory. I wish you peace and victory, and to all participants of today's conference, I wish great results. Thank you. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you, Serhiy, for your support, for your vision, and for this valuable partnership at the level of the region. And now I would like to pass the floor to the head of Khmelnytskyi Oblast Council, Violeta Lebzyuk. She couldn't be here in person, so she recorded her welcoming speech. Dear participants of the International Congress, the Institute of Psychosomatics and Psychotherapy, in partnership with Khmelnytskyi Regional Council, is organizing a large-scale event in Khmelnytskyi, which is very important and very topical. It's important to joint efforts of the public institutions, NGOs, professionals, and so on to work on the problems of mental health and psychosocial support in Ukraine, to create the platform for the development of specialists in the field. It's great that the Congress can boast of participation of people not only from Ukraine but also from the United States of America, Austria, Slovakia, Germany, and other countries. Because of the war, we have been living in constant fear, and war relates to each and every one of us, physically or mentally. Ukrainians need mental health support, and this is relevant for everyone, both those who are in the army and those who are civilians. That's why working at all levels, especially at the level of territorial communities, is very important. Supporting mental health, working on depressive and post-traumatic disorders. And working on mental health of members of the community is the key to its development and success of country. Khmelnytska Oblast Council is helping the processes of psychosocial support of our population. Last year, together with the academy, we implemented the project Razom Help Nearby. We had programs of support to the specialists who work with combatants, veterans, and members of their families in all communities of our region. We have systematic communication and work with NGOs and public organizations. We have many memoranda of cooperation. Psychological support to combatants, veterans, and members of their families is provided by the municipal institutions and enterprises. As a vice president of all Ukrainian Association of Rayon and Oblast Councils, I pay special attention to these matters, and I support the initiatives and projects in psychosocial sphere. A lot has been done, but much more lies ahead of us. So I wish to everyone interesting discussions, experience exchange, and finding solutions to certain problems related to mental health in Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine. We are very grateful to Violeta. Political will and attention to mental health is the basis for long-term changes. Khmelnytsky is a city which has become the space for new approaches, where the community, the authorities, and specialists are creating the system of support together. And now we would like to pass the floor to Alexander Semcheshin, who is the mayor of Khmelnytsky. Good morning, everyone. Glory to Ukraine. First of all, I would like to thank the team of the Institute of Psychosomatics and Trauma Therapy. We have been cooperating with you for many years, and I'm really grateful to you for giving us this opportunity to attend this third International Congress. We're also very grateful to all our international friends and partners who come here every year to share their experience, to communicate, to learn from our experience, because we are, working and developing our approaches as well. And these topics are very relevant. So this is definitely something to talk about, to discuss. And of course, Ukrainians are a nation who will require a lot of mental health support and rehabilitation. And I'm sure that when we speak about mental health, we have to have in mind all those Ukrainians, everyone who has stayed in Ukraine, because in this or that regard, everyone requires certain attention to their mental health. There's a significant portion of Ukrainians who have left abroad, but we really hope to get them back, and they also need attention to their mental health. And of course, priority number one for all of us are Ukrainian soldiers who are defending us and who have been defending us since 2014. And I would say that starting from 2016, we have started working very actively on development of rehabilitation and recreation. And later on, we made our Barakhnadi Recreation Center into a rehabilitation center and conducted many events for veterans, for the families of those who were killed in action, who were prisoners of war, for their children, and we have been improving the center with every year. It works practically every day, and today we have little decompression retreats. We have some family groups work with the military, with their families, and everyone else. And in 2019, we launched a rehabilitation department in our municipal hospital. So basically, all our rehabilitation specialists and NGOs we have been working with have seen how the demand is growing with every day. But it's not only about infrastructure. It's not only about decompression or retreats or some, well, I don't know, just spending there 7 or 10 or 20 days. Mental health is something we need to care about every day, and it's important for everyone. Of course, our soldiers, their children of those who were killed in action, children of prisoners of war, they are a priority for us. And I traditionally tour kindergartens in spring, and I talk to the psychologists who work in kindergartens. And in all kindergartens, the psychologists say that the number of children who require psychological support has grown, well, many-fold. And we may not think about it, but if a child who is 3 or 4 years old is awakened during their day sleep by an air raid alert siren, that's a huge stress for the child. The child is crying. They put clothes on the child, bring those children to bomb shelters, and no matter how nice you arrange everything in a bomb shelter, it's still a bomb shelter, and it's still in the basement, and it's an enclosed environment, and that's a lot of stress for those children. And for us, we also communicate with the families of those killed in actions, of the prisoners of war, every day. In 2022-2023, I personally visited practically all funerals. You have like 2-3 funerals every day, and you can see those children who come to the funeral of their father. That's something that also makes you think about your own mental health when you come home in the evening. So it's something we all need. Establishing rehabilitation centers and developing other infrastructure, we have noticed how little of those things we have. So except holding similar events, except doing our work every day, we also need to work on the infrastructure of the centers for mental health support and rehabilitation. Last year we bought a land plot in Holovčici, and we already have a ready concept of our mental health and rehabilitation center. And by the way, next to the entrance to this room, to the right of it, you can see a monitor with the presentation of our concept. And if you have any suggestions or comments, they are very welcome, because we will be preparing the draft projects and the feasibility study right now. And we're thinking about the name of the center. Tamara Janina is one of the main ambassadors of this project. She's a wife of our friend who was killed in action in Mariupol in 2022. So we want to have a good name. Probably a good is not a suitable word, but a name defines a lot. So if you, as professionals, people who work with these people who have their respective needs, because we also have veterans here, if you have any ideas, please share them with us. It will be one of the most important objects for us in the next couple of years. It will be very expensive. It's like 560, 600 million hryvnias. But we want to make it for people, so that it can work 365 days a year, and so that it can help people. And today I would like to wish you all very productive work. Thank you for participating. Thank you for caring, and we will keep working together with you. And we will be supporting each other, because this is a cause for all of us. Thank you. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you, Alexandra, for continuous support and development of initiatives that improve the lives of people in the community. Starting from the first days of full-scale invasion, the international community has been supporting Ukraine all the time, especially in development of humanitarian and psychosocial services. And I'm delighted to invite the Vice President of the Special Department of the Ukrainian Fund, named after Robert Bosch, Mr. Margaret Lukes.
Good morning. On behalf of the Robert Bosch Foundation, it's a pleasure for me to welcome you here. So unfortunately I don't speak Ukrainian, you had to put on your headphones. Not only from the Bosch Foundation in Germany, but also from your twin city and sister city Stuttgart in the city government, as well of the Community Foundation in Stuttgart. All partners of Chmelnytsky and all supporting you in your work here. And it's amazing for me to see the huge interest in this Congress. It's really a pleasure to join you, to see all the people, and not coming only from the United States, Slovakia, Austria, Germany, and the Czech Republic, also coming from a lot of places all around the Oblast Chmelnytsky and the country of Ukraine, from Lviv, and I heard also that there are a lot of people from Kharkiv are here, and you had the same trip, long trip I had to do, a city, Kharkiv, I think each morning when I wake up, as I think of the whole country of Ukraine. It's a pleasure for us to support this conference because we think at the Bosch Foundation, we support Ukraine for more than 30 years. And especially in these years, we put a focus on the support of the resilience of the society and the recovery of the country and the nation. And both is in parallel. Already now, also the recovery started from the very first day of the full-scale war of Russia against Ukraine. The recovery process started. And for the recovery, we need mental health in the society. And I'm very grateful to you, Mayor, that you mentioned that's a topic which relates to everybody in the society. Of course, the veterans and their families, the IDPs, the children, also the returnees when they come home back to Ukraine, and also if there is ceasefire and peace, it will be a topic. And it's so important that the whole of society is working together. The military administration, the government, but also the civil society. And therefore, we are very grateful to our partners, IPSI, and to Natalia and Marina, organizing this Congress and bringing in civil society in this conversation. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to learn. You both mentioned the experiences you wanted to share with us, our experiences from abroad, but we are all here, all internationals are here to learn from you. Unfortunately, the situation in Ukraine makes it a laboratory for the world. And the world is open to support, but the world is eager to learn from you. And we can learn a lot of your activities. And we make it concrete. In autumn this year, a delegation from Chmelnytsky will come to Stuttgart and share the experiences in mental health support they did with the Stuttgart community. And we are very much interested, and I could tell you from the mayor of the city, they are very open to your visit. And now I wish you a fruitful conference. Enjoy it also, use the time, and I wish you all the best for the future, and Slava Ukraini.
Дякуємо, пане Маркус. Ваш внесок у відновлення людського ресурсу надзвичайно важливий.
Thank you very much, Mr. Marcus. Your contribution to the restoration of mental resources is really very important. Today we start our journey from theory to practice, from vision to specific solutions, from general experience to regional cooperation. And now I would like to welcome here the speakers of our first panel, which is called Ukrainian Experience. Mr. Orist, we are happy to welcome you here. Please come on the stage. And while Mr. Orist is coming. We understand that you have lots of work. Thank you very much for supporting us, and we continue. Today we are going to talk about integration of services in the community, training our experts, resilience and self-help, new challenges in working with children, war veterans and people in crisis, and also about the role of culture and art in support of mental health. But at the beginning, we still have a couple of minutes while the first speaker is going to join us, and I would like to mention a couple of uh, safety and security issues because this is of utmost importance. Dear colleagues, in your handouts, you have the evacuation plan. Please pay attention that on your right there are two exits, and it's written there, shelter. So these doors are open. You go to the patio, and on the left and on the right there is shelter. It is also open, so in case of necessity we go there. But let's hope that during these days we won't go there. But again, please take care of yourself because safety and security are our key issues. We are waiting for our speaker to join us, and probably I will make a short review of our agenda. We have our first panel session till 11:30, and we shall have both online and offline speakers, and we are going to discuss different topics. You can pose questions from 11:30 to 12 o'clock. There will be a break, a coffee break, and you can also register if you didn't have time to do it. And after that, we go to the workshops. There are 6 workshops. In your agenda, you have the names of the workshops, the trainers' names, and the rooms. All workshops will be conducted on the 2nd floor of Khmelnytsky University of Management and Law, so please pay attention to this information. After the first session of master classes, we shall have lunch, and there is a nice surprise waiting for you just in the patio. People are now cooking very tasty Ukrainian dish, borscht, so we invite you to join our lunch and to do networking, to communicate and enjoy the taste of Ukrainian borscht. And we also encourage you to participate in the activities of our photographer and psychologist, Serhiy. He will come up to you, he will ask you different questions. Please be kind to answer those questions, and at the end of the second day, we shall watch a film, how we spent those 2 days.
Зараз ми чекаємо включення.
We are waiting for Mr. Ruslan Prihodko, who is the Deputy Minister in Veterans Issues. He's going to join us online.
Добрий день.
Добрий день.
Да, скажіть, будь ласка, ви мене чуєте?
Ми вас дуже добре.
Do you hear me? We hear you well. That's good. Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you, dear organizers, for the possibility to have this presentation before such a distinguished audience. I will try to focus on the priorities of our state and actually on one of the key priorities for our ministry. At the end of the last year, the ministry has developed the strategy of the state veterans policy. It was approved by the government to implement the order of the President of Ukraine, and now at different levels, starting with the central executive level and finishing with the regional level and actually going to the local territorial communities, we built modern veterans policy according to the set priorities, according to the strategic goals identified in the strategy. And one of the key elements is restoration of our mental health. So this is the first strategic goal is just rehabilitation of the war veterans and the welfare of their families. So one of the tasks our ministry is working on is rehabilitation in the area of mental health. So this is one of the key challenges for us, as currently we are trying to form this policy, and I'm really glad that the Parliament of Ukraine adopted the law on mental health, and it will enable us to systematize our work, while we as the ministry focus on developing the network of service providers in the area of mental health. We have a program, we have a resolution of the Cabinet of Ministers of Ukraine that identifies 3 levels of such help. And at the end of the last year, understanding the typicality of this issue, we prepared certain changes and we raised payment for service providers, for those who provide services to the war veterans, their families, families of people who are missing, families of war veterans. So the cost of such services is from 600 to 100,000 hryvnias. It depends on a number of components: the qualification level, the experience, international diplomas, and so on and so forth. So we really try to focus on building this network, and our strategic task is in several areas. First of all, to create opportunities in every territorial communities for the war veterans to get timely and high-quality service, and this is probably one of the key challenges, one of the crucial challenges we face, because we understand the problematic issue with the staff at the local level, the staff that is supposed to have certain qualification and skills. The second level of our task is integration of these opportunities in all the elements of bringing back our defenders to the civil life. For example, using different types, the psychological assistance, sport, and employment. Currently, lots of employers, for certain reasons, have some concerns about employing our defenders, and we try to focus our attention on somehow removing this gap or actually dispelling this concern. And there is an initiative of the big businesses of Ukraine, so they are communicating with us, and we try to sign principles friendly to veterans. And we are really grateful to those businesses who state that they are ready to employ veterans, that they are ready to change their jobs, their working spaces, their processes in order to meet the challenges of the current times. And one of the key issues is to communicate with our defenders who come back from the war. And regarding this component, we are going to integrate the psychological field and psychological services to the needs of our employers, and it will be paid from the state budget. So actually you see a range of areas where we have to integrate these activities, because psychological assistance is not about actually the very assistance, but also about the growth, personal growth of our defenders, just revealing their potential, their employment, doing business, and so on and so forth. So we try to engage the experts. We have created the register of service providers in the area of psychological help, and every military administration has a task to contract such experts to do information campaign and so on. Definitely, we faced a huge problem, as unfortunately, very often people get mixed with certain notions. For example, certain people call themselves psychologists, and they do not have special education. And those psychologists who actually have the necessary experience and skills and qualification level are already engaged in a number of other processes. Therefore, the task is to create all the conditions to sign contracts with the service providers and to use this tool to rehabilitate our defenders and to include it into all the processes. For example, we can combine it with the other ways of support given to veterans. It means we build the entire system that is fully different from the rudimentary Soviet system. So we are trying to act proactively. We try to find veterans, to cooperate with them, create all the opportunities for them. And the key issue is to provide such assistance timely, to the full scope, and definitely it should be of high quality. I do hope that all our partnerships in this area will enable us to multiply our efforts. And I'm trying to address all the people working in the area, and I encourage you to start working with rehabilitation of our defenders. And definitely there is another important component, and this is the scientific one. The questions are: what are the protocols used by psychologists? What methodologies are the most effective? How we can use the experience of other countries? How we can use the capacity of our academic world? And currently we try to communicate and interact with our national higher institutions, our scientific community, and our partners. And for example, we have already implemented the project together with the Coordination Center on Mental Health with Ms. Oksana Zbigniewa on implementing the program which is called Equal to Equal or Peer to Peer. And this program is already implemented by our Shevchenko Institute, Psychiatry Institute, and a number of other institutions. And again, I'm grateful to our partners. So I do hope that the representatives of our Department on Veterans Policy are known to you, and I do hope that today's meeting will be another step to improve your cooperation and to engage you into the process of providing services in the area of mental health. And now people use the term mental wellness. And I'm talking not only about our veterans, but also our families. Thank you for your attention, and I wish you good Congress. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you very much, Ruslan. And before giving the floor to Mr. Orest, I would like to invite here the veteran, the head of the Advisory Council on War Veterans at the Khmelnytsky Military Administration, Mr. Artur Wojciuk. Please go to the stage and let's applaud Artur.
And now we start our communication here on stage. Zoom helps a lot when we can't be somewhere in person, but we are very happy that ЗДОРОВ'Я is here in person. This is a practice that has its history already, and you can actually see and hear how services are implemented and created in Ukraine. And whenever I'm in doubt, I can always call Orest or write to him and get some personal support from him. So thank you for being with us today, and I'm passing the floor to you. Glory to Ukraine. It is a great honor and a great responsibility for me to speak after the representative of the Ministry of Veterans and before a veteran. So I will try to do it on the proper level. So thank you for your introduction and for the invitation. I represent the Swiss-Ukrainian project Mental Health for Ukraine, and it's a great honor for us to have this partnership with our colleagues from Khmelnytsky, despite the fact that Khmelnytsky is not among our pilot regions, but we have been cooperating and communicating very actively, and I would like to ask you to show my presentation here on screen. I have undertaken the responsibility of starting this Congress from a more general overview of the mental health field, because despite all the difficulties we face, we also have many opportunities. And it is no wonder that many international colleagues and partners want to see our example, want to see how we are doing, because what you are doing as professionals is a great example of professionalism, resilience, adaptability, agility, and ability to cope with great challenges in conditions of limited resources. So when I was thinking of what to talk about today, I decided that I need to start with a general overview of the situation we all live in. And of course, I will not be able to cover all the aspects because I only have 15 minutes. So it will be difficult to describe the whole system we have, the system that is being shaped, the system that is getting rid of the past experiences. Because despite the fact that we have had our independence for more than 30 years already, but we have a great Soviet legacy in the system of mental health and social protection. And that poses even bigger challenges. Ukraine has started moving in the right direction, and I should start my presentation by saying that in 2017, that's when the war was already waged in the east of Ukraine, the reform of mental health, the reform of healthcare was implemented. I think you all remember that the family doctors were introduced. So this was a new system of financing which was introduced at that time. And also a concept of mental health support was adopted. And I think that this is probably the most important political document in the field of mental health policy. It's very inclusive, and at that time it was also very modern and very advanced, and it went hand in hand with the vision of reform of the mental health reform. And in 2019 our project started. This is a technical Swiss-Ukrainian project, Mental Health for Ukraine, which was planned as support to the reform of mental health system in Ukraine. Well, it has several partners, including GFA, a German company. We also have the implemental team at that time. We will mention them today later on. Also the Institute of Mental Health of the Ukrainian Catholic University and the Zurich Mental Health Clinic. In 2018-2019, we wanted to work in Donetsk, Luhansk, and Lviv regions, but 2022 changed everything drastically, and we'll speak about it a bit later. So going back to local policies, the year of 2017 was a very important year, and we started thinking of how to develop the capacities. So within the project, we started working with separate communities, and this is something that many communities do right now. The experience is already there, and I'm happy that the methodologies are being used. And that's when we started MHGAP. You know that now this is the WHO program to overcome the gap in mental health services, and this is a part of our services right now, thanks to the all-Ukrainian program of mental health, which was initiated by Olena Zelenska. So now it's a part of mental health program in Ukraine. Every family doctor should have supervision. So this is also developing the capacities at the primary level of healthcare service provision. We also worked in Mariupol, and I try to show this slide as frequently as possible because that was in 2021, and we were in Mariupol. We had very good cooperation with local authorities. We signed a memorandum, but less than in a year the city was occupied, and thanks God those people we worked with there are now on the Ukrainian territory, and we keep working with them. So this is the resource which stays here. These are people who know how to do it, who can do it, and who keep doing this. What is important, and this is also an important accent which I would like to focus on during my speech, we need to make sure that our capacities, that this knowledge which is brought to us by our international experts, that all this remains in the communities. And from the very beginning of the project, we invested a lot into training and to understanding, despite of all the difficulties, because 2020 was COVID, lockdown, another indefiniteness and unknownness, but we managed to actually work in Donetsk and Lviv oblasts in that year. But also one of the best steps we managed to make was the first school of leadership in mental health. And I'm very happy that Khmelnytsky community was actually selected then, despite the fact that we don't work in Khmelnytsky Oblast. But I can see those leaders here, Ivan, Boris, and the others, those people who studied, came back and keep working with the local potential, with the local needs. Investment into people is probably the key aspect of any project. Politically speaking, in 2021, an action plan was taken in Ukraine. That was like 3 years after the concept itself was adopted. Because of the COVID, because of many other reasons, we started lagging behind from what was initially planned. And then the full-scale invasion came with all its consequences, which we can see right now. So it all gave a certain impetus, because the full-scale invasion actually revealed how important the mental health field is, and the Ministry of Healthcare, Ministry of Social Policy, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Veterans, they all started paying attention to that. And within the framework of this all-Ukrainian program, we can see that there's this engagement of different ministries. And this is also the result of the fact that we all can see how much the war can impact our mental health. And it will also play a role in the recovery process, but it also plays a role in how we work and respond today. So the First Lady's Initiative appeared in 2022. The Coordination Center for Mental Health as a consultative and advisory body was established in 2023. The Coordination Center to support civilians, which was also established by the Cabinet of Ministers in 2023, is, in my opinion, another important step for humanitarian response to the war challenges. I don't know how the system of coordination centers works in Khmelnytsky region, but in Lviv region, which I represent today, the system of coordination centers works well, and in each district we have a coordination center which is within the system of district council, and this is the possibility to unite the international partners in the district to see the local capacities. So this is a kind of a rapid response network to ensure housing, humanitarian support, medications, and so on. So this resolution actually helped provide a prompt response to the challenges which arise. International support is very important, and I think we need to give credit to WHO here because it also coordinates humanitarian support and assistance, and I think we have here the representatives of those organizations who are involved into this system. And WHO has undertaken the responsibility to coordinate international humanitarian partners, and this is one of the opportunities to get these, to coordinate capacities and to get the resources, but it all has changed. You can see here on the map, so these MHPSS groups as a way of humanitarian response were introduced in Western Ukraine after 2022, but with time for 2025, this coordination was undertaken by the coordination centers for support of civilians. So this is another opportunity which appeared there because those centers started being more knowledgeable, had a better understanding of the situation, and this is also a result of these international trainings and also the support that was provided. WHO also coordinates, as you can see on the slide, the integration of MHGAP program, and they pay attention to veteran policy, and the International Migration Organization takes part in this. A map of international partners as of 2024. You can see how many of them we have, but it is only in the region we can see where they are, how effectively they work, or how much they actually respond to the needs that we have. So it's important to understand how they work, and that's why these coordination centers are very important. 2024. This is when the first plan to implement the concept ended, and a second one appeared, and the role of coordinations of the How Are You program in the oblasts and sub-coordinators in the communities and regional events. These are all those things which allow for implementation of the mental health policy in the field, because it's only in the regions that we can actually see what is happening. So the question is how realistic we are in describing these programs and implementing them, because it seems to me that we have seen how important it is to shape this policy and how important it is to invest resources into this policy. And speaking about our project, what was important for us was not only train, but also provide the communities with certain things that they will remain with after the project is over. So we started supporting certain communities starting from the beginning of our project. That's Lviv, Rivne, Dnipropetrovsk, and now it's the national policy as well. You know that the National Health Service is also working on that. Rehabilitation spaces, psychiatric hospitals, we supported, and which are also a very good and tangible example of the changes, and colleagues from other regions come and they see what's happening, and they can do even better than we can see here. So you can see this gym which was made for the veterans in a hospital. Now we know that there's too little space, so we didn't know how big the demand would be, and well, it's very important even for a psychiatrical hospital, because you'd think that people wanted only medications or communication, but actually physical activity is very important. It plays a great role in psychosocial rehabilitation. New services, which you will also discuss today, the services we didn't have before the war, or we had it in a different form. This is supported living for people with mental disorders. We can see the needs, we can see the difficulties, because it's not always the case that local authorities actually want to support these projects. So we need to think where to find resources for these things, because in 2009 Ukraine ratified the Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities and undertook the obligation to develop the services for people with disabilities and mental disorders in the communities, as an opposition to the institutional forms which we inherited from the Soviet Union, these certain so-called boarding houses where the human rights are violated, in fact. So the war has actually shown how relevant this program is and how many resources we lack, but it also shows that we can find the resources if we have leadership and good vision. We have a couple of houses like that in Lviv and Lviv region, also in Fastiv and Kyiv region, and also UN organizations are also supporting the establishment of supported living houses in other regions. It's important to know where it works, what it looks like. So there's an opportunity to go there to see how it works and to do something even better, but you need to have a vision for that. After the full-scale invasion, moving towards conclusion. So after the full-scale invasion, new services appeared. That's MHCAP, because we didn't have anything like that before that. That's also mental health center, which is now a part of the medical guarantees program. And as of the day before yesterday, 136 facilities actually concluded a contract for these new services. These are the things which appeared after the full-scale invasion, because we got a better understanding of the needs, and the state started understanding these needs better. The resilience centers, the centers of social protection, we shouldn't forget about territorial social services centers, which also provide services and also need support, because they also have their target audience to work with, and that's also a part of the system of mental health protection. The houses of veterans appear in many communities right now, and from our experience we can say that these are the places where we can work with families, with veterans, and it's also a question concerning the vision in the regions, what can be done there, and whether evidence-based methodologies are used there, because sometimes we can see some very strange things taking place there, so we need to be very careful here. The law on the system of protection of mental health was adopted in January. It was discussed for a long time before that, but now we have these discussions to shape bylaws, and there are many difficult issues and nuances. There are various discussions with the psychologists, psychotherapists, so the opinion of professional community should be heard. So I would like to invite you to participate in these discussions, because the law is an important step, but there are so many things we also need to do to make sure that it works and responds to those needs that we have in the country. Then the researching the growing needs, growing capacities, these are the things that will always be relevant, because the needs change, and we can see in the communities that new people, new categories of people appear there, and we don't always know how to work with these people. Starting from 2023, we had this demand for work with the families of those missing in action because the local authorities didn't know how to work with these people, and now we have this peer-to-peer support network, and that's something that was initiated by an international program, but we implemented using local experts so that people who are invisible to certain bodies can still get a certain level of support. And I've already mentioned that the needs grow, and we can see them better now because people with disabilities are more visible. And I'm talking here about different kinds of disabilities, physical disabilities and mental disabilities. We talk about it, well, we are not that shy in talking about that. And this is very important because we speak a lot about the human dignity, about the people with lived experience to, well, have the right to say. And this is something that we need to take into account in the context of all reforms. Because this is we should take it as a slogan for the movement of people with disabilities, nothing about it without us. Because there are groups with certain needs which appear, like people who come back from the front lines. Then also rapid responders, the representatives of the rapid response service, and also the police, those who work with identification of bodies, who extinguish fires after missile attacks. So these are people who seem to have all they need to do their job, but they also suffer a lot from those traumatizing events of different intensity and different frequency. But this is our responsibility of mental health experts to work with them. Then children and teenagers, we have mentioned them today. Also addictions. This is something that we can see more and more acutely in our communities, and we know that we lack resources, despite the fact that it seems to me that we have the psychiatrical hospitals and narcological hospitals. But outside of these hospitals, there is not enough services, or their quality is leaves much to be desired. And coming back to the beginning of our project, a very good colleague of mine will speak today. He is a professor in psychiatry and one of the leaders of the British reform in the 1980s, 1990s, and they provided us with recommendations when we started the project. We can share this document because there are not so many things that have changed. There are many important things which remain, and I'd say that these are the main things in the approaches when we want to develop a system or reform the system. There are 10 recommendations about collective decision making, about engaging people with lived experience to decision making groups, coordination councils, working groups, but those who work not formally but actually do the job.
This is about the development of leaders, and we have already mentioned it today. Training, development of new assistance models. We also want people in the communities to know where they should go with certain issues. Improvement of the already existing services and things. So we really would like to enhance the already available capacities, because in Ukraine we have lots of good people, good schools, good services, and that means we have the resource that we would like to engage. We also should address the needs of children and teens. And in the context of 2025, I would also add here the war veterans, the military people and their families, training and professional development, and also providing help to those who provide help. This is also an important issue, to remember those people who work in different areas, in humanitarian area, in medical area, in psychological field, because those people is also our resource. and I will probably already wind up because I have already exhausted my time. Thank you very much for attention. Thank you very much for everything you do. And I do hope we'll be capable of doing high quality and capable horizontal network of service providers, including different stakeholders, to make services in a psychological area more available and more addressing the needs faced by communities. I wish all of us good and prolific Congress. Thank you very much, Mr. Orest. Experience of veterans, experience of reintegration, and needs of those who come back from the front line to peaceful life. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Artur Wojciuk, who is the veteran head of the Advisory Council on War Veterans, Defenders of Ukraine at the Khmelnytsky Regional Military Administration. Good morning. I'm really happy to welcome all the people present, all my comrades, all those people who have joined us here, who have found time to be present here and to learn something new and to be present in creating history of our mental health and rehabilitation. Somehow it happened so in our country that for a long time people were not talking about mental health. But the war doesn't end in the East. It doesn't end when the military and combat actions are over. The war is also ongoing even when people come back. The war has its impact on our families. The war has its impact and affects those who welcome us in the civil life. And war is like a disease which is spread among the community and has its evil imprint in all the activities of our families, of our community, of our society in general. Definitely, it cannot happen overnight, and therefore such congresses as this one, understanding of the problematic issue, is really important, and the very fact of understanding it already guarantees success. I was just thinking what I could be talking about here, and I caught myself thinking, and actually I have been in the army for a long period of time, so when people asked me, how are you? How do you feel, for example, when you come back from the combat mission? We were just keeping silent. My comrades and me were just silent about the way we feel. But when I was wounded and when I had my rehabilitation, we had a communication with psychologists and we were talking about some general things. But again, I got myself thinking, why I'm keeping silent about these things, why I'm lying first of all to myself. And the very recognition of this thing started my rehabilitation. You probably know that there are lots of amputees. There are people with amputated limbs, legs and hands, and you understand that this is a huge problem. And very few people actually talk about amputated soul because there is no prosthesis for this. And unfortunately, this is the case. And as a war veteran, I can confidently say that there are several vectors, several areas of integration into peaceful life, several ways of finding once again the necessity to stay here. And it may be about sport, it may be about employment, but such thing as mental health, in my opinion, is the foundation of everything, because everything comes from our internal feelings, from our perception of the world. Lots of people come back from the front line, but these people understand that they have PTSD, that they have some mental disorders, and they are silent about them. So, and again, it plays its role in their peaceful life. And there are few people who understand that if a person, for example, hears some explosions or at the combat area, and when a person comes back to the peaceful life and doesn't have this thing, a person starts looking for some other ways of healing, and somebody choose probably not some harmful ways of rehabilitation in the opinion of this person, and some people choose good ones. And again, lots of people are silent. Lots of people probably are not even aware that they do have such problematic things. And I know my personal story. I understand how we can help our comrades, our war veterans, how we can be helpful for them. For example, a person comes and a person probably would like to say something, to open his or her soul, to show the feelings. But lots of people do not understand those signals and do not recognize this openness. And I would like to say once again that the key aspect of providing high-quality assistance to war veterans are highly qualified experts who can recognize those signals, who can understand the stages of rehabilitation for each and every person. So this is the first key aspect. The second key aspect is support. In many cases, lots of my close friends who came back from the front line said, well, somehow it will pass over. How do you feel? Everything's fine, everything's okay. But actually, a person understands that, well, it's not this, it's not that way. And that's really important when you have somebody really close nearby. So we come back to our families. Thanks God, we do have our families who are waiting for us, who are welcoming us. But after family, there is another group, and this is the society, the local community. So developing the system of mental health in communities is also of utmost importance, because this is the next stage of your civil, peaceful life. And again, as I have already said, very few people were talking about it. It looked like something has been done, but in practice we didn't have anything. So it's important for all of us to understand, and I would say even to become aware of the importance of this fact. If a person says, well, I'm fine, I'm okay, we cannot know whether a person really is fine. So it's important to listen to this person, to build trust, for the person to be able to talk openly with you. Why this openness and sincerity is really important, and why is it so difficult? Well, the idea is that if we become open too much, probably we'll be hurt again. So in the majority of cases, we do not want to talk, we do not want to become open, because we are already hurt, we are already wounded. And the third point of veterans rehabilitation is trust, particularly when we are talking about mental health. It is also important to understand that a person with disability, a person, a war veteran, and a military officer, their families, understand that while we are here, I always say that veterans have huge solidarity. For example, I'm here and they are somewhere else. And this is also something traumatizing. So actually, they perform their military duties, they feel this pain, and when they come back to the peaceful life, they become closed. So they stay in peaceful life and they say, well, I'm fine. I'm fine because I do not want to talk about my personal things. So this solidarity and the truth of feelings is really very high with those people who come back from the front line. So it's really important to understand that every step made in the field should be justified by the fact that people for whom we provide those services should be able to open, and they should feel that what is done for them. And again, the point is that whatever we do for those people should be done in cooperation with those people, because they are themselves who know best what is best for them. There are several aspects in mental health, but we all are individuums. We all are individual human beings, and as a result, we have an individuum, then we have his or her family, then we have the entire society. So we cannot say, let's do this, that, and that, and if we do this, a person is healthy, a person will be enjoying his or her life. Unfortunately, this system doesn't exist. Therefore, we do face certain problematic issues, and we have to find the ways to make progress. We should find the ways how we can solve those problematic issues. And if we do it, we'll be able to achieve some results. And what is also important is to make mistakes. It's typical of humans to make mistakes. But when we make mistakes, sometimes we find better solutions. And some people actually are afraid of providing assistance, providing help, because a person says, well, I'm not an expert, I'm afraid of making mistakes. But in the majority of cases, if we again come back to the topic of mistakes, a person who is trying to do something will sooner or later achieve positive results. Our strength is in our unity, in our solidarity, in understanding, in providing support. Because, well, people really feel frustrated and disappointed, and we cannot even imagine how difficult this silence is when you come back to the peaceful life and you understand that in the army you played a very important role, crucial role for everything, for your life, for the life of your comrades, and then you come back to the peaceful life, you do not have this, and you become silent. You become closed, you become isolated, and there is only one idea in your brain. What I'm doing here? What's my goal? And here you try to find yourself again, to find where you can actually implement your potential. And this potential, through the sport, through employment, through mental health, through providing support to others, is a very important vector of integrating war veterans back into civilian life. Well, definitely not everybody has certain problems. We cannot know this, but probably some people will feel it in 5 years or somebody in 10 years. And here there is another key and crucial word. This is timeliness. To identify the problem timely, to provide services timely, because definitely lots of people get support and help from their families. That's understandable, that's clear. They have children, they feel this love, that's good. Some other people are engaged in sport activities, and again, people find it healing. But there are people who do not have families, who are not involved in sport, who do not get a job, so they become closed, and you do not see them. They are somewhere there. And well, definitely I am not an expert. I cannot mention any medical terms here, but I'm talking here as a person who just understand the situation from the inside. I understand the pain of those people, and when those people become invisible, this is probably the most tragic thing, because they do not see any light. They do not understand where they should go, what they should do in the future. Therefore, it definitely affects, first of all, the personality, then the very family, then the local community. And if we take one case, 10 cases, 100 cases, 1,000 cases, it already is a certain percentage of the community. And as a result, we have this disease, which is spread all over community. And as a result of it, there are different activities related to criminal things and so on. So it's really important that you should have all the tools to help those people in need. And that's why this Congress is really helpful. First of all, we have this international Congress, and the focus is developing the network of mental health services at the local level in communities. And once again, it's not accidental. It's the will of God that you had to be present here. So I'm really grateful to all of you. I'm really grateful for your understanding, for your support, for you being active, for continuing doing what you are doing. And we should work only like this. Glory to Ukraine, and on our way to victory.
Thank you, Artur, for your service and for your work you're doing now. And now we will have Ksenia Voznitsina. This is what you've mentioned when I have no strength. I look at Ksenia. She's a very strong driving force. So, Ksenia, the floor is yours. Hello, dear colleagues. I hope you can see and hear me. Yes, we can hear you. Great. Well, first of all, Artur, I'm very grateful to you for service and for production. And if there are other veterans or well combatants in the room, thank you all. To the moon and back. And secondly, it's a great pity for me that I'm not with you in person, and I can't have these therapeutical hugs with you together. But today I have to present a big project at the Ministry of Healthcare, and this is a historic event for our facility, so I have to stay here in Kyiv. But I'm happy that the technical facilities allow us to actually meet each other, at least online. And I would like to share a bit about what we do in Lisova Polyana, the things that help develop mental health services, that help make them more professional, provide a broader range of services, train professionals from all over Ukraine. I would like to thank Artur and everyone else who is here. This is another reminder to the society about the fact that mental health is not something abstract, but it's a very important thing due to which we can actually realize our potential and fight with the Russian aggression. So I usually say that our warriors who are at the front lines, they have various weapons, various means there. Just like them, we experts here need to learn to use new tools and weapons in our work so that we can help people who have certain mental health issues. And one more thing, I probably should not stress this in this audience, but maybe we have people from other fields present here as well. In the end of the war, when the hostilities end, and we really hope that this will happen very soon, this trauma will not disappear, but yes, we will not have polytraumas, we will not have new amputations. So physical traumas will decrease, but mental health traumas will increase exponentially. And I'm not trying to threaten anyone, and this is just the reality. We need to have very close contact with the reality to actually withstand that workload we have right now, to be able to care for ourselves and to be able to, well, develop our physical and mental resources. You know that Lisova Polyana uses the so-called multimodal approach, where we use various methods, activities, methods, and exercises to help people's mental health. And this really works because the approach to mental health has to be very personalized and very individualized. More than in other fields of medicine. It has to be very patient-oriented. It has to take into account the wishes of the patient and the selection of the method suggested by the psychotherapist. You cannot just prescribe some blockaders as in case of other diseases, but the patient has the choice here when it comes to the mental health. You cannot just make the patient use a certain method, even if it's evidence-based. There are also some individual specifics of a person, religious moments, regional specifics. Well, if a person just rejects this method, you will never achieve success in that field. So Lisova Polyana uses the classical biopsychological approach when we work not only with the emotions and with mentality, but also with the body. And as Marino said, who was the founder of psychodrama method, he said that people may suffer a social death, and restoring the social aspect is an important task for us. So we're moving on and on. We are looking for new methods, for new techniques and approaches, and we have finished our pilot project here at Lisova Polyana. It lasted for 6 months, and quite soon we will organize the media presentation of this project. This was the ketamine-assisted therapy. There is a protocol in the world which we used to conduct this research. It was not easy. We at Lisova Polyana, our excellence center, we advocate for the use of psychedelics-assisted psychotherapy in Ukraine, because we can see many complicated cases which are resistant to classical therapy, resistant to antidepressants, resistant to psychotherapy. And in cases like that, we need to have some additional means. But despite the fact that we advocate for these methods of treatment, we have been working very professionally and constructively with such approaches to psychotherapy. And the selection of patients was very thorough. Out of 80 applications we got, we selected 1-2 persons after the consultations with our psychiatrists and psychotherapists, because we took into account various additional factors. If a person has any experience of previous psychotherapeutical work, various adverse effects that may happen there. Also the cases when people wanted only the ketamine sessions without psychotherapy accompanying that. So now we have a group of 30 patients with resistant cases of depression, and who have already undergone certain treatment but have not received the results. And I can say that the results are fantastic. And I've heard so many insights from psychotherapists and psychiatrists who supported them during these ketamine sessions and during the integrative sessions. There are so many things coming from the unconscious that could be processed based on that, and it's much easier to process this traumatic experience. We measured it all based on the respective scales, and we will publish it in the end of May. We will make the recordings and share with the others, and we will keep advocating for this. Because, as you know, ketamine is not a classical psychedelic medication, but it's the only medication whose use is allowed in Ukraine, because other medications like psilocybins and the others, they cannot be used even in clinical research, because they belong to the first group of narcotic and dangerous substances, and that means we can't do anything with them. So this is our next step for lobbying and advocation, collecting a large number of representatives of the international and national academic and professional communities. We have representatives of Canada, Israel, and also Switzerland and the UK, who help us here in Ukraine to continue to advocate for this topic and make these things possible. But I should repeat that we will suggest doing this at Rizova Polyana only within the framework of clinical research. We have to keep researching this. We cannot just adopt it and start doing it everywhere. It's not a therapy with some mythical effect. It's not a magic pill. It's one of the solutions to approaching especially complicated cases. And I will definitely share with the colleagues. I will share the recording of the presentation with the results of our research, and we have prepared a lot of documents on patient pathways, the protocols of research, all conclusions of the medical committee. This is the package of documents we are ready to share with the colleagues who would like to implement this method. But what is important is training of specialists, because it's not ketamine which is the decisive factor, it's the professional level of psychotherapists. And the whole team we have which participates in this kind of treatment has undergone a very good training. This was a 5-day training from Professor Jerzy Hracek on site. This is a person who has many years of experience of applying ketamine assisted therapy, and this is one of the best specialists working on that, because we need to remember that this is a very responsible thing to do, and you need a high level of professionalism to work with this methodology. So thank you, dear colleagues, for giving me the opportunity to join you here today, and I wish everyone an interesting Congress, productive meetings, and I hope to meet you in person very soon. Thank you. We hope that your presentation will be very successful today as well. And our next speaker is Irina Ivanchuk. Thank you for the interest on the part of the Center of Public Health and for being here in person. Glory to Ukraine. You know, it's so cold here in this room, and while waiting here, I was thinking, you know, we will stay here for a while, and then we'll go home where it's warm and cozy. But our defenders, they cannot do that, and this is a debt we will never be able to return to them. But we need to do everything possible so that they have a place to go back to, and so that they understand what they were fighting for. And thank you for fighting for us. I will be speaking about addictions. Addictions are a topic which is very stigmatized. And we have this idea of addicts as people with lack of character, lack of will, and so on. So I would like to start by saying that we need to understand that addiction is a complex chronic disease, and it is impacted by many factors: hereditary factors, genetic factors, social environment factors, and many others. So we need to get rid of the stigma which prevents us from providing quality assistance to these people. Could you please raise your hand if you work with addicts? And who knows people like that? Yes, many more, of course. We all have someone we know. Now about the incidence of addicts. So you can see that if we speak about alcohol abuse, that's about 8%. 8% of people have disorders like that. If we speak about the substances use, we have fewer people like that, but there are still many of them, and their numbers will keep growing. What concerns the data of the National Health Service, every fifth person asking for help in terms of their mental health, these were people during the last year, these were people with addictions. 18% of people, that's people who abuse alcohol, and 20% people who abuse substances. And with the full-scale invasion, the situation with substance abuse has changed, and these are new challenges for us, because we have new groups of users, people who start or continue abusing alcohol or substances because they have problems with mental health. And we don't do anything. People with PTSD, depression, with anxiety disorders and so on will start using or keep using, and that will aggravate the course of their disorders. We have a big group of people who start using substances because their pain syndromes are not treated adequately, and people prescribe some medications for themselves and take them, and that's how addiction can also appear. And we need to remember about that. We know about the warriors, we know about the veterans, we know that addiction may be shaped because of pain, because of certain problems related to military service, or because of the mental health problems. What is important to understand here is that we now have many new substances which we know very little about, and it's very difficult to respond to their use. If we speak about teenagers, according to the latest data, we can see that 14% of teenagers in Ukraine have the experience of using substances, and this is not just cannabis, but these are also psychostimulators and so on, and they may also have, report heavy alcohol use. Speaking about the incidence of substance use in persons with mental health disorders, according to different data, it's from 30 to 50% of people with various mental disorders also use substances. Speaking about treatment, modern approaches to treatment and service provision have to be based on the new paradigm of vision of what is a disorder and what is abused. Well, previously we believed that this is a pathology, a personal choice, and so on, and that's why treatment was very paternalistic. When people believe that a person can be forced to resort to certain treatment, or when we use some labor therapy and just moralizing, trying to implant some values and so on, but this doesn't work. So modern approach means that this is a chronic disorder and it has to be treated as such, and that means that there can be a relapse, and just like hypertonia or diabetes, you cannot always treat it but you can achieve the level of remission, but you cannot guarantee that there will be no relapse. At the same time, we understand that just as any chronic condition, a patient should be an active participant of treatment, shouldn't be a passive observer, and when doctor says what to do and they do it. So a patient is an active participant of the process of treatment and is responsible for their treatment. So all those methods like repressive policies, punishments, moralizing, shaping values, all those things don't work, and we have to actually refuse from using them. So what should these services look like? First of all, this is about the broad understanding that these disorders are very widespread, and we need to forget about this traditional portrait of an abuser who is socially disadapted, and you can see that this person abuses something. In many cases, you can never tell that a person uses some substances or alcohol, especially when it's in the first stages. So we all have to be on alert. And if we see that people have certain problems with mental health, we need to conduct short screening to reveal the presence of such disorders. And it can be done not only by mental health providers, but also by social service providers. We teach how to conduct these screenings and how to do it without judgment. So a person gives you honest answers to the questions, and you can actually figure out whether they have any disorders. Well, you can have any suspicions, whether they need a referral to a specialist or they need some very short and focal interventions. And we also teach how to do that.
And this is something that can be done by non-medical experts. Therefore, being awareness and using screening methods should be something that is mandatory. Then we talk about services depending on degree of disorders. Dependency is not something dichotomic, whether we have it or not. There may be different types of disorders, from some mild ones to moderate ones and to really critical ones. And logically, medical and psychosocial assistance should be provided with respect to the severity of those disorders. So if it is really severe dependence, we may talk about hospital treatment, medication treatment, and if it is just a problematic issue, this may be short-term interventions. And later I'll probably give you references where you can read about it. Integration of services. Ksenia was talking about multimodal approach in relation to providing medical assistance. Well, dependence is a complex disease, multi-factor disease. Therefore, we have to address biological, psychological, social component, and the best treatment is an integrated one, using a multidisciplinary team, engaging social service providers, doctors, and psychologists. Medication treatment. Well, usually it is quite limited when we are talking about dependencies. We have certain medications that actually treat acute conditions, abstinence syndrome, and so on. And when we have dependencies, we have opioid substitution treatment. We also have alcohol disorders treatment ways. Talking about different dependencies from stimulators or other psychoactive drugs, these are psychosocial interventions because medications actually are not quite good here. And even if there are medications for the alcohol dependency, this is usually the combination of medical and social treatment. And definitely all psychological services should be evidence-based. And we should use only those which are evidence-based. This is also is something that is stipulated in our standards. We actually developed the standards of medical help, medical assistance. They are based on evidence and they structurize how the treatment should be provided. There are two standards for those with opioid dependencies and for those who have some other dependencies except for opioids. And we also organize trainings for this. Now we try to update the standards. There is a final also a standard for alcohol dependency. Here you have some provisions. I'm not going to voice all of them. So how the effective treatment of alcohol dependencies should look like. This is the screening I have been talking about. This is the comprehensive examination, different types of comorbidities, somatic condition. So we are talking about the combination of pharmacological treatment and psychological interventions. For psychological interventions, we use CBT, family therapy, motivational therapy. We also use the approach of joint decision-making. So now we reject dichotomic model where the doctor is the most important and the patient is a sort of a pupil. Now the patient is actively involved in choosing the methods of treatment. I suggest that you read more on this approach because lots of researchers say that when we use this joint decision-making approach and when we address the dignity of the patient, when you make the patient a participant of the treatment, so when the patient is not only just the object but also is the subject, in this case the compliance rate is really high. And we should set realistic goals. We understand that not all our patients will be fully ready to stop, to give up consuming psychoactive substances. And for example, if at a certain stage of a patient's life, the patient is not ready to give it up, we probably should continue working with him at least to reduce the harm caused by those substances. Or, for example, if a person doesn't have severe alcohol dependency, we may probably teach this person some control or frequency of consumption. The standards actually tell how to do it in practice. Regarding opioid dependency, this is opioid substitution therapy. In Ukraine, there is a network of institutions providing such services. If you have such patients, you may actually come to us and we'll refer you to the nearest institution. And there are some other psychoactive substances. I have already mentioned them. We usually use the combination of different methods of treatment, and the medications are used only to just reduce acute conditions. What are our further steps? What we are going to do? At the level of the country, we try to develop the comprehensive model of service provision for people with dependencies and the basic treatment program that will be used at the medical institutions in order to provide high quality and standardized treatment. We have lots of learning activities, and later I will give more information on those. Well, some of them are online. These are webinars, online trainings. In case you need, we may organize some specific trainings or webinars in relation to the topic of dependencies at your request. Definitely we try to establish intersectoral interaction because healthcare cannot work separately from the social service providers and so on. So this is also one of our priorities. In this slide, you see the list of our online courses, depending on the dependency. We also have opioid substitution therapy, alcohol dependencies, separate techniques, CBT, motivational interview, and so on. So actually, you can use those courses. You can listen to just some individual lectures. I do hope you'll get those presentations and you will be able to find those courses and webinars. Those courses are available at the distance learning program of the Public Health Center. We also have lots of webinars available at our YouTube channel. And probably you can find some interesting things there. And when we are talking about opioid substitution therapy, we have a separate chat board, and you can find the information about the nearest medical institution providing treatment to people with opioid dependency and addiction. And actually, you see the leading centers are responsible for this or that type of addiction. And also, I will have my contact information here. If you have any questions, if you have some cooperation proposals, you can always write to me. You can give a call to us. We are always open to all the proposals and all your requests. Thank you very much for being open, for everything you do. And now I would like to invite here our international expert, Mr. Graham Thornycroft. He wanted to join us live, and we do hope our international speaker is here.
To see you. Time is yours.
Thank you very much. Let me first make sure you can see my slides. Just a moment, please. Now, can you see my first slide?
Not yet, but it's maybe because
Not
of
yet.
connection, so...
Okay, let me just try that one again. Can you see my first slide now?
Yes.
Okay, and do you see my second slide? Called plan?
Yes.
Okay, good. So, good morning, everyone. And first of all, thank you very much for inviting me to this important meeting this morning. I know that you have a continuing time of great difficulty, and I very much hope for peace very soon. A word to introduce myself to you. I work in London, and I do two things. One is I work as a consultant psychiatrist, and I've worked for 30 years in community mental health teams in London, and now I work in a team for people who are homeless and mentally ill in the centre of London. Secondly, I do research and teaching at this university, King's College London, and my theme today is about collaboration in mental health. I want to give a little bit of context about the mental health world that we live in and work in, to say something then about different types of collaboration, and to offer you information about a few resources. First of all, a short section on the context. The context here is global mental health across the world. And what do I mean? So a colleague in America has said, global mental health is an evolving field. It's quite early. It talks about reducing suffering and to promote and to sustain mental health, not only to treat people who have mental health conditions. Advocacy for individuals and for groups, and indeed for mental health as a whole, is an important part, especially based upon evidence which we can translate into action. So I'd like you to think for a minute about the village or the town or the city where you live. How many people in your community have a mental health condition every year? So here we have the whole of your community. And then we can think first about people who have more severe types of mental health problem. For example, psychosis, anxiety, depression, and so on. And the answer here is about 22% from data in many countries worldwide, so maybe a quarter. But if we add people who also have other clear-cut mental conditions, for example, ADHD, autism, personality disorders, then the answer is about a third of the whole population have a mental health condition every year, and these from large-scale epidemiological surveys. Next, I want to think about the quarter of all of us who have a diagnosable mental health condition this year. And I stress diagnosable because, of course, most of these people are not, in fact, diagnosed. Are these people who have real mental health conditions and problems actually diagnosed, treated, and supported? So I'll take the example of major depressive disorder, a severe form of depression that affects about 4% of the population every year. So we think in the outer circle of all people with major depression this year. Then let's think about how many of these people in the richest countries, like mine, I'm in London, in England, actually get treatment, and the answer is about a quarter. In middle-income countries, such as Ukraine, maybe 10%. And in poorer countries, we might think of Nepal or Ethiopia, about 4%. So the main point is that about a quarter of everyone in our communities have a mental health condition every year. And even in the richest countries, only a quarter of those people actually get help. So we are, despite our intentions and all the work we do, we are not helping most people who have mental health problems. And this concept is called the treatment gap. Now, is this simply because of lack of money? Of course, in part, this is a lack of resources. But let's look at the comparison of people with physical and mental health conditions. These are data from the World Mental Health Surveys. So we can take, for example, 3 physical conditions, and we see that probably over a half of people with these conditions in low and in middle income countries do get help. We could then compare that with 3 mental health conditions where even in high income countries, less than a half, perhaps a quarter or a third of people actually receive help. So my point is this, that it's also the distribution of health resources where mental health historically has been much less well funded than physical health services for people with physical conditions. But it's not only the lack of mental health care that's a challenge. Where we do have mental health services, sometimes the quality is not good enough. For example, in a Lancet Commission report on global health, there are examples of clearly very bad quality services, I can't say care. So in that context, why do we need to think about collaboration in providing services and support for people with mental health conditions? Because the range of needs is so great, and because in every country the services are provided by different agencies, the services are funded by different ministries of government, and if we don't collaborate, then we give poor quality and fragmented or no care. So I'll start with the question of physical health care. We know, for example, that people with mental health problems die earlier than everyone else. I think the best overview is in this paper, and it found that about 1 in every 7 deaths is related to mental illness. Therefore, mental health problems are one of the biggest causes of death worldwide. Only 11% of these are from suicide. The majority are from cardiovascular and pulmonary conditions because of lifestyle, diet, and worse physical health care for people with mental health problems. I think one useful resource are these guidelines from the World Health Organization about how to treat physical problems in people who have already existing severe mental health conditions, so-called comorbidity or co-occurrence of mental and physical conditions. The second area of collaboration I want to mention briefly is about collaboration with communities. And some of this thinking came from this Lancet Commission report on global mental health. You may be familiar with a classic picture from the World Health Organization called the Pyramid of Care, suggesting that most people will go first to a primary care setting, for example, a primary healthcare center, if they have a health problem, including a mental health problem. They then may be referred to secondary care, usually outpatient or ambulatory care, and the most complex or most severe cases can be referred on to tertiary or subspecialist care. But in fact, what we did in the Lancet report is to add in a new base or a new starting point of support in the community before people may need to go to primary care. And this can include, for example, support for employment, especially where there may be stigma reducing the work opportunities for people with mental health conditions. It can include providing accommodation, either independent or supported accommodation, for those people who have mental health problems who may not be living with their family any longer. It means support in schools, in colleges, in educational settings within the community. For example, information about mental health and information about how to get help if you, for example, are a teenager with social anxiety or with ideas of self-harm. And particularly it includes interventions for suicide prevention. For example, maybe messaging men to say it's a strength to be able to talk about mental health problems and to offer or receive help, not a weakness. Another clear interface that's important is collaboration with primary health care for mental health purposes. And I think useful information here is in the World Health Organization Mental Health Gap Intervention Guide. And I know you've had training in many parts of Ukraine with the MH-Gap Intervention Guide. It's now available in the third edition from 2023, and it's intended not for mental health staff. It's intended for non-specialist staff, for example, in primary health care, for example, in community health settings, and particularly in low and middle income countries where resources are scarce, to mobilize to facilitate non-specialist staff to be able to detect and do first-line treatment and referral of more complicated cases for people with mental health conditions. And from a review of the impact of the MH gap, we can see that there are many studies now assessing this, producing positive results where primary care staff are trained and often retrained to keep their knowledge and their confidence fresh for their mental health skills. Another important domain is in the workplace. As I mentioned a moment ago, often people who are at work and, for example, have anxiety or depression will not discuss that at work, may get no help, may be working not very well, or may have to take time of absence, periods away from work because of mental illness. And a resource here that I think is useful is another recent set of guidelines from the World Health Organization called Mental Health at Work. For example, it talks about ways to support individuals. For example, it talks about ways to support middle managers who may need to be helped with education about how to recognize mental health problems. Somebody who's coming more often late to work, somebody who seems very tired or irritable, somebody who's perhaps performing badly or maybe drinking more alcohol, and so on. Another important form of collaboration is with the wider community to reduce stigmatization, to reduce discrimination. And again, we have a new tool here that may be helpful to you in Ukraine. The basic idea from now hundreds of published papers about how to reduce stigma is to use social contact. This means contact between people who do have experience of mental health problems and people who do not, either direct or indirect contact. And after about 2 years of work, the World Health Organization published last year this toolkit. It's called the WHO Mosaic Toolkit to End Stigma. For example, it has information about how to run a country-level program, but also at other levels. For example, how individuals can go to the shopping center in their community and still undertake effective and evidence-based anti-stigma activities. And this toolkit is freely available. You search WHO, Mosaic, Stigma, and Toolkit. Another vital form of collaboration in mental health is with governments. Clearly, they have the money, but also they can link between ministries, which other people can't. Good quality data are set out in the latest version of the WHO World Mental Health Report. For example, that 1 in every 6 years live with disability is from mental health problems. A sixth of disability worldwide is from mental health problems. But also I think we need to take a positive message to government, not simply keep repeating the challenge, about the return on investment, the value for money of investing in mental health care. And it's clear that every unit of currency that you invest can produce up to 5 times that benefit by, for example, treating people with anxiety or depression. But the starting point is very low investment. Indeed, only 1% of all healthcare workers in the world are specialist mental health care workers. So we have to keep making the argument to government, not only on the challenge and the solutions, but the economic gain to society of providing mental health care. So to finish, a few other resources that might be helpful to you. One is that I've been working on a textbook of community mental health and producing huge amounts of evidence on every aspect of hospital and community-based services. So this is an up-to-date review of that evidence. Also, I work with a colleague, Professor Norman Sartorius, and we're publishing this summer a book about professional and leadership skills. And I think one of the gaps in our field is to empower, including empowering young and intermediate career colleagues with the skills to grow our field of mental health in the coming years and coming decades. Now, sometimes in mental health, just before I finish, we take a rather negative view. There's so much need, we think relatively few resources, and so on. But I think we can also be proud of where mental health leads the way within healthcare. For example, that in many countries we are now providing services in some or in many community settings, and colleagues in physical healthcare may talk about this but may not actually do it. In many countries we have active or even very active collaborations with patients and family members. Many more collaborations, I think, than in most of healthcare. In many countries, we have multidisciplinary teams, bringing in social workers, occupational therapists, psychologists, nurses, psychiatrists, bringing all those skills together, sometimes more often than we find within physical healthcare. And we also recognize, I think, more than other fields of health, these complex elements of comorbidity and multimorbidity, all of which interact with each other. So to summarize, I want to say a bit about the wider context of global mental health. I've talked about a series of interfaces in collaboration, either locally, by collaboration between different agencies, but also nationally of collaboration between different ministries of government, because there's such a wide range of needs of the people with mental health conditions, and because if we don't integrate, we fragment. And then I've offered a few resources. If you'd like any more information, please do contact me at this email address. That's myname.kcl.ac.uk. And on that note, I'd like to thank you very much for your attention this morning, and I'll be joining you during the afternoon for the question session as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you for joining us, and we will try to create social contact today afternoon, so welcome to join.
Thank you.
Dear participants, just a couple of announcements, because I think everyone is already used to quick and rapid changes, including changes in other fields of our lives. So now I would like to ask the operators to show us a QR code. So I'm asking you to use this QR code, which you can use to register a Telegram group, which is called the Congress, and you will be able to follow all the up-to-date information there, what is going to happen, what changes will be taking place. So we will introduce all the changes there. And now we have a request for you. So I'm passing the floor to my colleague, Serhiy Aniskov. All right, so he trusts me with this. I think everyone's a bit cold, so we need to move about. We want to take a big family picture, so please come here to the stage, on stage, in front of the stage. So we invite everyone. We want to take a picture.
І поки ви всі збираєте,
And while you're gathering here, I would like to draw your attention that today in the evening we will have a gala dinner. You can register in the same at the same link where you registered for the Congress. And the speakers and workshop leaders, we will compensate your tickets. So approach Valeria. She will be at the registration desk so that we all do it today.
разом нас багато.
There's so many of us. Let us all gather here. And after the picture, we will have a coffee break. You will be able to get some hot tea or coffee. Serhiy, will you help us? We invite everyone, please come here.
Я боялася говорити вголос. Я не відчувала свого тіла.
Мене тримала сором'язливість і провина.
Я навчилась мовчати, навіть коли боліло.
Я не вірила, що мене почують.
Я навчилась виживати, не жити.
Я тікав від себе.
Я не знала, як просити про допомогу.
Я був присутній, але відсутній.
Тепер я створюю простір, де говорити безпечно.
Бо знаю, мовчання може вбивати.
Тому я слухаю без осуду.
Бо тепер я йду назустріч собі.
І сьогодні я живу, не виживаю.
І я вибираю бути присутнім по-справжньому.
Зараз я допомагаю людям відчувати себе знову.
Тому я чую навіть мовчання.
І я залишаюся поруч, поки ти вчишся довіряти.
Ми – команда, що не боїться тиші. Ми тримали її в собі. А тепер тримаємо простір для тебе. Без порад, без поспіху, без осуду. Ми поруч.
Я працюю в Центральному інституті ментального здоров'я в місті Манхайм. Спочатку хочу сказати, що для мене це велика честь брати активну участь в цьому конгресу в моєму рідному місті. І, на жаль, в цей складний час. Я спочатку теж прошу вибачення за мою українську мову. І я сподіваюся, що ви можете її витримати наступні 15 хвилин. Зараз к темі мого докладу я хочу вам трохи розказати про дослідження, яке ми зробили у нас в нашому інституті спільно з партнерською клінікою Хайдельберга. І ми там використовували метод EMDR з протоколом GTAP в рамці групової терапії для українських біженців з симптомами ПТСР. Спочатку трохи про контекст цього дослідження. Як ви знаєте, що є дуже багато викликів у сфері психосоціальної допомоги українцям у Німеччині. І вони є, звичайно, мовний бар'єр та недостатня інформація про доступ к послугам в сфері ментального здоров'я і те ж саме великий рівень стигматизації серед українців в Німеччині. Додатково вони люди тут стикаються з іншими проблемами, таких ми називаємо це постміграційні стресові фактори. Це розлука з тривала війна на батьківщині і труднощі з адаптацією в новій культурі, вивчення нової мови і інші речі. І на фоні цього застосування будь-яких
And the use of any scientifically and evidence-based methods of treatment is complicated. I think that many representatives of those present here know about this method, so we can speak here about EMDR. This is an abbreviation of the English term of desensibilization and reprocessing. So this is the desensibilization and reprocessing using eye movements. This is the methodology, which is not new. It has been developed by Dr. Francis Shapiro a couple of years ago. And its main idea lies in the fact that people have dysfunctionally preserved memories, and they are the reasons of disorders, the so-called pathogenic memories. And within the framework of the therapy, we can work on these states, on these negative memories, and help patients with the help of finger movements, causing fast eye movement in patients. This is quite a complicated model, which was suggested by Shapiro. And the idea is that we had a traumatic situation in the past. It causes traumatic memories, as you can see here indicated in the red, and it is connected with the everyday consciousness, and if they don't progress spontaneously, as it happens in many cases, there may be different situations that can provoke these memories, and people feel anxious, and they feel burden and other symptoms of PTSD. In our research, we used a group protocol based on EMDR methods. It was created in Israel, and it is based on the fact that patients have a separate stage of EMDR under the guidance of a therapist. Using this worksheet you can see here, and they work on their memory using rapid eye movement caused by hand movement. I would like to show you a short video. If I remember it right, in the Donetsk Oblast in 2018, this is something that was done there. A therapist, together with the group members, is showing hand movement, and they actually follow the hand movement with their eyes. What concerns the research? The first group that we wanted to test got the GTAP protocol, which was developed by Shapiro, and the active control group worked according to another protocol which has been published and is used in treatment of people with post-traumatic disorders. It's called the stabilization group, and within the framework of the stabilization protocol there are mindfulness exercises and imagination exercises, and the number of these exercises can be done independently. We have made a quasi-random distribution of people into the groups, and of course people were included into the research after the screening. What concerns the protocol, people in GTAP group had 4 sessions once a week, and the representatives of the Stabilization Control Group also had 4 sessions. You can see here the results of data collection. On this chart, you can see the ITQ International Trauma Questionnaire score, which shows the level of post-traumatic burden, and you can see here that the red lines, that these this is the GTAP protocol group, and the green line, this is the STABI group. And you can see that both groups, for both groups, it was quite effective, and from statistical point of view, both groups got a statistically significant effect of their therapy after 3 sessions.
What we actually haven't observed, that there were no statistical differences between the group. So both methods actually helped people. What is interesting also is the average points in each of the groups. But if we take a look at the individual impact, it is very heterogeneous. There are lots of people who didn't feel any effect. Still, there are lots of people who have shown very positive response to group intervention, for example, JITA. And there were also people whose condition deteriorated in terms of the number of points. So if we are talking about traumatization. And I already get to the end of this report. Our key result of the research, there is significant reduction of PTSD symptoms in all the groups, in GTAP and in stabilization group. Within the framework of this research, we may say that one needs at least 3 sessions in order to have statistically significant result. And from the pragmatic point of view, unfortunately, we saw that there was a low level of return to care, and it was quite difficult to analyze data, and probably it was due to this fact that we failed to see like certain results between the groups. And it was an important experience from the viewpoint of doing such research among the refugees. Well, the participants were actually, in their majority, our outpatient treatment. And so if a person is not our patient, it's very difficult to convince a person to participate in such types of intervention. We actually did some advertisements in social media. We also distributed flyers and provided people with leaflets. But, well, people were skeptical about it. And it shows that there is quite a big barrier. Particularly when we are talking about group therapy. And it's not only about Ukraine, but also about Germany. The next step we planned was to continue collecting data, and probably on the basis of those data, we'll be able to see what type of patients are most suitable for this type of intervention, and vice versa, for which type of patients this particular therapy may not be very useful. So it will be really useful if we understand this point. So at the individual level, everything is really very heterogeneous, and we still do not know why it's so. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that it was interesting for you. And I hope that you understand the importance of group protocols as well. Unfortunately, there is a very high need for PTSD treatment, and I think that we do not have enough therapists for individual treatments, and therefore group therapy is an opportunity to upscale this work. And I think that lots of people in Ukraine will be in need of this particular kind of therapy. And I do hope that within the frameworks of our project, we'll be able to offer more courses on GTAP and EMDR for Ukrainian colleagues in Ukraine. And we hope that owing to these efforts, we'll be able to improve the situation, to improve the treatment and the level of services provided in Ukraine. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Irina. I'm the coordinator of supported living in a public organization, the workshop of your dream. So there are 2 workshops and 2 houses with supported living. Service of supported living has been in place since September 2023. Now we have 2 houses, Pogulянка and Makoveya. Pogulянka house was opened at the beginning. Now there are 6 residents and 1 resident is on a testing period. The residents are people who live in the house on a permanent basis. What is a test period? A girl comes to the house, gets used to the environment, and when she is 18 years old, she can start living in our house. 6 months after Pogulянka, we opened another building in Makoveya Street. It has 7 seats, and now we have 4 residents. There are 6 assistants working in each of those buildings. In the past, we also had assistants who were living in the house, but we rejected this idea because people actually got exhausted very quickly. We have men and women age 18 plus. The houses are divided into female and male parts. There are 2 people living in 1 room. All the residents are different. Some people like cooking, some people like making order, and some people like drawing. The residents actually get to us from different sources, from the boarding houses, from psychiatric hospitals, and through self-referral, and also through social media. And the members of our team who are responsible for choosing our residents talk to the potential residents about supported living. They invite people to our houses where the residents can spend some time, can spend several days and get acquainted with the people living there. There is a testing period of 6 months, and after this, a decision is made about the living in the house. The criteria for selecting residents are the following ones. People should have some mental impairments. Also, the potential residents should be able to take care of themselves and should be at least 18 years old. Before we put people in our houses, it's necessary to find the house. We rent the houses. It should be a house with enough number of rooms, toilets and bathrooms, and joint space. The house has everything which is necessary for living. The next stage is to set a team. We try to choose people with certain values, and they have practical training directly in the house. The assistants also have a 2-month training testing period, and then we make a decision about our cooperation. We all the time undergo different types of trainings. This may be workshops or trainings discussing certain individual behavioral cases, and every week there are meetings where the assistants and the coordinator discuss topical issues that happened during that week. For the residents to better adapt to new conditions of living, we try to structure the space. First of all, we keep to the timetable where we write the key points during the day. The residents have their own plenaries. They put down the information about cooking, cleaning, washing up, and so on. Those people who have difficulties with reading may use symbols. We also have a special duty list in the kitchen or in the house in general. For example, the resident sees that he or she is responsible for cooking breakfast, washing up, and for example, the next day, duty day is in 2 days. We also use special visual prompts where certain things are. Also visual prompts for laundry and for key behavior, rules of behavior. For example, near the washing machine, we have a visual sign where with symbols we indicate separate washing of, for example, dark and white laundry. We also indicate, for example, main behavioral rules. For example, in the bathroom you can be only alone, and if you, for example, want to enter somebody's room, you have to knock on the door, and so on. The assistants help the residents understand the rules of behavior in those houses, and this is the way we cooperate with our residents. So we discuss all those issues together, and we take individual approach to each of our residents. If somebody needs more time for hygienic procedures, it means a person should wake up earlier and probably will not participate in cooking in the morning, but will do it in the evening. To make living in the house comfortable, the first thing that we do is establishing relationship with new residents. We talk a lot, we explain a lot, we listen to residents' story, and we try to accommodate them to new environment. We explain the rules, we show how these rules work in practice, and we help the residents develop their skills of thriftiness, and we engage them in all the processes: cooking, cleaning, doing shopping, both individual and general ones. Lots of attention is paid to emotional condition of our residents. The assistants accompany residents not only in the very house, but also during their rest time or holiday time. We usually discuss feelings and emotions a lot. We ask our residents, how was your day? How do you feel now? Why certain things happened? How the situation may be addressed differently. Every day we try to have this day session where the residents discuss the emotions they felt during the day. Also, we organize different types of holidays, different types of celebrations, and so on and so forth. And this is something the residents usually discuss. They are happy to discuss the happy moments. They also report the things they didn't like. They give us suggestions what could be done better. The residents like visiting new places, discuss interesting events. The residents actually behave in a different way when they are outside. Regarding challenges, these are first of all behavioral challenges that we discuss together with the psychologist. Also, there are complicated issues related to somatic health of our residents. For example, the residents have to undergo additional checkups and the relevant treatment. We also help our residents with the routines and habits developed in the institutions. For example, people think that there will be somebody to take care of them, there will be somebody who will clean after them, people do not know how to spend pocket money, and so on. All these issues are discussed, and we try to adapt our residents to living in our house. Well, we always feel lack of information about our residents, how they lived before, what was the attitude towards them, what they lacked. We also lack experts and assistance for long-term support. One of the important challenges for us is funding. This is the costly service, and definitely it should be funded. This is a brief description of our houses of supported living. Thank you for your attention. We invite you to visit us. We are always open to new people. Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Petro Polyashenko. I'm a practical psychologist of the Malta Service, Order of Malta Relief Service in Kharkiv. I'm pleased to talk about our experience from April 2023 till April 2025. And I will also talk about using our dog therapist. So today we are going to discuss kinesiotherapy, where specially trained dogs assist in psychotherapy, in rehabilitation and resocialization, and many other areas. For me, kinesiotherapy, pet therapy, or zootherapy is not something new. I have been working with these issues since 2013, but the bonus of engaging dogs to the therapeutic process is that every time you have something new, there are some moments which you haven't seen before. Well, therefore, the dogs can surprise you really well. The dog makes the process really beneficial for all. And it is beneficial for the specialists, for the experts, for the clients themselves. And I do hope that you will also get interested in the topic, and probably even you would like to develop this therapeutic field. And at the end of the slide you will get my contact information. Kinesiotherapy as a complementary method is not a new method. The psychologists, social specialists, rehabilitologists, psychiatrists, and many others usually engage dogs to their activities. The positive effect of animal therapy is well known for a long time. Throughout history, dog has always been a friend and a defender of a person. And a dog is the one who can protect you, who can take care of you, who is associated with the safety of a person. As a minimum, the dog can support you. And there are definitely certain specific stories, even from those from the Middle Ages. The first psychiatric clinic also had dogs, and these dogs were probably the only comfort of the patients at that time.
Kinesiotherapy becomes more evidence-based in the second part of the 20th century when Boris Levinson noted the positive impact of his dog Jingles on his patients. He got interested, and in the process of his observations, he concluded that dogs help establish contact quicker and help reduce the strength of psychological protection and will help people. I should note that he actually did a lot for the professional community to learn about kinesiotherapy, and Freud added to that process because he also wrote about the fact that he sees positive impact on his clients. But we need to understand that kinesiotherapy, it's not all about the dog. Of course, there is a positive impact of this kind of communication. So yes, we can see the dogs of various breeds. But when we speak about kinesiotherapy, we have to take into account that it's therapy, first of all, and the dog is a participant, a co-therapist there. And therefore, this is something that is done by a psychologist and a psychiatrist. Whereas there is a setting, the rules for provision of psychological support, rehabilitation, and so on. There are specialists who work within the framework of their competencies. They follow the planned path, taking into account the new details which can arise in the process of work with a client, with a patient, and then you can add a team of a kinologist with a dog, or just a dog if the psychotherapists know how to deal with dogs. The dog has to be socially adapted, and they have to have this wish to communicate with new people, grown-ups or children. We can't do something good at the cost of somebody else's discomfort, and in this case I'm speaking about the dogs. So this is something we need to keep in mind. When we have the ethnologist and psychologist and a dog, we need to have an established system of communication, mutual understanding, and we need to communicate how the dog will be involved, how much time it will be involved, what talents it has, what it can and what it cannot do. So we need to be objective and not require more than is possible. For example, if the dog brings a ball twice, or well, 5 times when in good mood, we shouldn't bring the dog to a group session where we have 10 persons, each of whom would like to throw the ball twice, because it will just not take place. And the psychologist should understand things either on their own because they know how to deal with dogs and how to handle them, and have the respective certificates, or they need to trust the cynologist, the dog handler, and understand what's where they can involve the dog and where they cannot do that. This is about the breed or other aspects. But generally, we have to understand that there is a line. There are no universal dogs. So one dog can do this thing, the other. Well, one dog will be better in working with children, other with grown-ups. One will be better in individual format, the other in group format. And that's okay. We just need to understand that and not to do harm neither to the client, nor to the dog, nor to ourselves. A separate aspect of kinesiotherapy to remember is the dog is not a tool. It's not like I will take pens and pencils from the shelf today, but tomorrow I will use the dog. No, the dog is a full-fledged member of the process, and I've mentioned already this is a co-therapist. He's your partner, but he's not. It's not a tool which you can use as you wish. And I've already mentioned that many specialists have noticed the positive impact of communication with the dogs. But of course, there are also some counterindications to kinesiotherapy. These are allergies, open wounds, unwillingness to communicate with the dog at the level of disgust or panic. People don't want. Some people don't want to do anything with that when they have the right to do so. But we just need to accept their choice. But we need to tell them that, yes, I do understand this. I don't insist. But if you ever change your mind, if you decide to try, maybe you have some traces of interest and you would like to try to interact with the dog, I will be happy to help. Here are my contact details, or I have the contact details of another specialist who does that. And we can always meet and try doing something in a different manner. What is important here is to have the respective wish. The same pertains to allergies. For example, there are cases when allergies are manifested in closed environment, but not in the open environment. Or some allergies, they have 1 degree this today and another degree in a month's time. So we need to have a look at what we have here and to respond to that respectively. The things that may be counterindications today may not be an obstacle tomorrow. So that's the process where we should never say never. But if kinesiotherapy is accepted, then the positive effect may be reflected in the following ways. This is about reduction of the levels of anxiety, lesser manifestations of depressive states. It helps stabilize emotional state of a person, decreases the impact of stress factors and brings more positive emotions to the person, gives an understanding that positive things may happen here and now. So this is about people who are in such a dichotomous state, people who or maybe more negativistic, have more negative emotions and not just notice the good things, then the dog may help find the positive things. And the psychologist helps to, use it. And this is the format a person takes with them. And then can note for oneself that this is good, how they feel this in the body, and so on. But a dog may be someone who rediscovers natural but forgotten options. The development of balance and coordination, which is very relevant in the process of rehabilitation. And communication with the dogs may and should provide internal motivation to undertake some physical exercises recommended by the rehabilitation specialist. For example, going out of your ward, taking the steps down, going outside, taking some efforts to communicate with the dog, the efforts the patients haven't done earlier. So, like the doctor says, you need to take some walks, and the patient says, okay, but doesn't nothing. But well, if you want to communicate with the dog, you need to go outside. So that's already movement, and that has positive impact on people. People on wheelchairs, that also improves their coordination, their understanding of how to use their body in the space, establishment of contact with one's sensory feelings, tactile, oral and visual ones. If we speak about a psychiatrical department, a person is in a state of depression, doesn't get up, lies in the bed all the time. And here we have a walk, fresh air, a walk with the dog. The muscles will recognize we're here, and then they will feel where their body starts and ends. So this is also about the contact with themselves and their bodies, the development of self consciousness. So the person can understand that they manage, they can do this, despite the fact that this is something new for them, that it may be difficult for them, despite some difficulties with and troubles with health. Their feelings are improving, and this is also based on the well, because of the unconditional acceptance by the dog. So this actually restarts the self-identification process of who I am, what I am like, and so on. Communicative skills develop better, even if we speak about non-verbal communication first. Then if you want the dog to do something, you need to say the command and to ask how to interact with the dog better, you need to talk to a dog handler. Or to a psychologist who knows this dog better than the client. So it's also about communication. If we speak about the group format, then there are various discussions, positive discussions, just talking about dogs, different stories and so on. So you have a discussion, and it may be a positive experience of communication here and now, and this is what a person can use today and tomorrow. So kinesiotherapy is a multidisciplinary process, so where many people can be involved, many specialists may be involved, and a dog is very often a bridge between different specialists. It also helps get emotionally unwinded, because there are moments when a patient just wants to keep silent and will get away from this intensity. So you can keep silent while walking with the dog or while patting the dog behind an ear. And it's much better than keeping silent in a psychologist or a psychotherapist's office. What is important is for everyone to understand what their part of work is, what their share of work, and what is their responsibility is. Speaking about the experience of the Order of Malta relief service in Ukraine, the majority of interventions like this were held on the premises of the hospital, but not in the wards themselves. So that was either outside or in the bomb shelter, depending on the security situation. And I would like to tell you a little bit more about kinesiotherapy in action and about some individual projects of the specialist of the Order of Malta Relief Service. Particularly a clinical case of a demobilized combatant. The work was approved by the patient. Of course, we are not mentioning any names here, but all participants of the process agreed to this format of treatment. So, a patient was admitted at the psychiatrical department because of nightmares, emotional swings, the feeling of emptiness inside, the feeling of the lack of freedom. She was prescribed the medications to improve sleep and mood. In 4 weeks, the dosages were reconsidered and work with psychologist was recommended, and I, as a practical psychologist of the Order of Malta Relief Service, joined the process together with a golden retriever. And first we were establishing the contact, and the dog did a lot in this process. While the patient got acquainted with the dog, she recalled all dogs and cats who supported and provided moral strength when she was at the front line. So this was about the establishment of this initial context, building trust. It all took place with the dog and brought very good results. In the process of getting acquainted with the dog, Polly discussing what she likes, what she doesn't like, we started talking about what the client likes, what she dislikes, how she would like to be treated, what she wouldn't like to be treated like. So we spoke about the boundaries, and also we defined this area for further development. And there are different variants of work. We decided to work on new habits and on getting rid of the old ones which have become irrelevant. And while communicating with the dog, we also provided psychoeducation. All those moments could be considered as the canvas for some projects, for some actions, like interaction with the dog, some things the dog does. All those things could be used as a kind of an example, which can then be discussed with the client, or can be used to discuss some specifics of mental processes. And based on that, we can find out some new information or establish new rules. It is especially relevant when it comes to emotions. So we discussed the emotions which may be their meaning in human life, how psychological defense mechanisms will kind of prevent us from feeling the emotions, and so on. So we kind of followed the plan of work to learn more about oneself, to learn to understand one's real emotions and wishes, and also to test the reality with the understanding of what is happening inside. And this is how we progressed in our treatment. This gave a positive effect. It lowered the mood swings and emotional swings and the level of anxiety. She was tracing her emotions, she was tracing her needs and her desires. And she was testing the reality based on the emotions and feelings. And thanks to this, we reached the level of more balanced work. We used Gestalt therapy approach with metaphors and associations. The client told about her dreams with a return here to the present. Because when we speak about the nightmares, so it's definitely not about reality. We can talk about this, use various practices, so we can use different practices to come back to reality, to understand that dream is dream and reality is reality. And meanwhile, we talked a lot about the dogs, about their habits as an alternative to old habits. And this also inspired the client that scenarios could be rewritten, especially when we speak about the habits which are relevant for the military service, but they are no good when we speak about civilian life. And in the process of discussions, we have reached the level of understanding of the positive dynamics that is there, and it can be there. It actually raised such topics like, what do I want to do? That she had a vision of the future, and she was not building her worldview on the past anymore. And an important part of our work was the topic of grief, and Polly helped a lot there. So she was coming closer to the client when she was crying. This supported the client and gave her strength to continue discussing this topic.
And she managed to talk about negative emotions and memories. During the process of psychotherapy, certain medications have been cancelled and some medications have been reviewed and the dosage was reduced. So my work as a psychologist and the dog as a therapist was in parallel with the work of a psychiatrist. And we have discussed many things and we have been trying to set new goals, what we are doing and why we are doing it. So as a result, there was improvement of sleep, emotional stabilization, feeling of freedom and open horizons. At the current stage, at that stage, the dog therapy are finished, and definitely we cannot describe all the details. Some of them still were valid, but I hope I managed to show the important role of a dog and dog therapy. Yes, in my practice, I tried to work not only with the dogs, we also involve felinotherapy and ipotherapy and many other animals. But today we have discussed the method of kinesiotherapy on the current realia. So to conclude, and I'm talking about not the conclusion of this particular presentation, but the conclusion of our activities. Yes, kinesiotherapy is efficient and effective, and also it is affordable on the average basis, and there are some prospects for the development of kinesiotherapy. Every specialist may get additional skills of a dog specialist in order to raise the dog who will help him or her in his or her activities. Or you may start cooperating with a person who knows dogs and who may assist you in order to ensure emotional stabilization and emotional support to your patients, to your clients. And this is the great promising area for kinesiotherapy, because at the background of full-scale invasion, we understand that practically there are no people who were not affected. Those people who stayed inside the country, those people who went abroad, we are all affected by the war. We all feel these causal relations. We are all aware of the fact that the war takes a toll on our psychic and our mental health. And now we see that there are insufficient specialists in those complementary fields, and assistance of our animals is definitely very helpful. When we are talking about clinical area, we cannot talk about providing each patient with individual therapist or social worker and so on. But definitely animal therapy is an efficient method if you have a cat or a dog or a hamster or somebody else. So for example, you may go to animal shelter, you may do hippotherapy with your clients, you may do, for example, you may take care of the animals, and by taking care of the animals you will have your own psycho-emotional rehabilitation, re-socialization. It's also one of the great methods. So such a method as kinesiotherapy is really very helpful under our conditions when we really lack staff, when we really lack psychologists. And such psycho-emotional support is really effective. So if we are talking about kinesiotherapy as an additional method in the activities of a psychologist or psychotherapist, definitely it is effective. It is evidence-based therapy, so you may really start doing it. There are special communities who spread the knowledge, who already have practical experience, and I think that if we already raise the point of kinesiotherapy at such level, it is something that has really promising prospects and will be developing. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for listening to my report. And we'll be really grateful if you send us your feedback. And if you have some ideas, please send them to us, give calls, because, well, it's important and we have to cooperate, we have to work in partnership, and we have to do whatever we can for our people to go through the years of full-scale war and post-war recovery. Thank you for your attention. Good afternoon. Thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about comprehensive psychological support for the communities. My name is Olga Hudlevska. I'm a psychologist of the Order of Malta Relief Service for Ukraine, and I also provide consultations in personal therapy. A couple of words about Malta service, Order of Malta. It has been working in Ukraine since December 1990, and from the beginning of the full-scale invasion, our service is actively involved in providing support to those affected. Our psychologists are present at the railway stations, shelters, rehabilitation centers, schools and kindergartens, and public spaces. And the conditions of war, mental health has become as important as the physical health. Unfortunately, war affects not only people in the military. It affects every community, every family. It affects each and every one of us, irrespective of our age or place of living. We all go through certain traumatic events, and we, as the specialists in mental health, are faced with quite serious challenges. About 50% of Ukrainians report sleep disturbances, 45% emotional instability, irritation or anger. 50% of Ukrainians are in the state of anxiety and tension. 49% are exhausted and are in bad mood. 53% of Ukrainians feel stress related to war. 71% of Ukrainians feel the need for psychological support. And it's not just statistics. This is something that mirrors our reality. And the scale of the crisis is really impressive and requires systemic approach. While mass return of demobilized militaries to the Ukrainian society will become a large-scale social process that will engage the entire society, not only psychologists. In this slide, you see the key challenges that we may expect. PTSD. Lots of veterans and civilians may have PTSD, and it will complicate their adaptation to civilian life. There is also a risk of veteran stigmatization as problematic or dangerous ones, and as a result, it may cause their social isolation. Some veterans can feel alienation and lack of trust to society and the state, and it will complicate their reintegration. After lengthy staying at the front line, the veterans may feel difficulties regarding integration into families, and as a result, families may break. The members of veterans' family also need psychological support in order to better understand their beloved ones. Lots of veterans will feel discrepancy between combat experience and realities of civilian life. They will feel loss of significance, as in peaceful life they lack the feeling of mission they had in the front life. As a result, social isolation may develop, unwillingness and reluctance to establish relationship with other people. At the same time, the veterans may feel lack of understanding on the part of the society. There may be some conflicts due to different values. It may be fatigue caused by the war. And the society also tends to romanticize or stigmatize the veterans, and both extremes are harmful. We cannot forget about suicide tendencies. Lack of proper psychological support can lead to the development of suicide-related ideas or thoughts, and it bears a risk for mental health at the level of the entire country. We feel serious social support because we are aware of the fact that we lack sufficient specialists in the area of mental health in order to provide psychological support and care to everybody in need. Therefore, the main burden will fall directly on the local communities. At the same time, these are the local communities that have good potential to overcome the crisis. These are the communities that can see and pay attention to everybody in need of support. Psychosocial support at the level of the community ensures access to psychological support, training people for psychological aid. We also can, at the local level, there are people who have similar experience, who can provide emotional support to each other and reduce emotional isolation. Now I'm talking about emotional support group. We may do awareness-raising campaign about crisis aid, available resources, and mental health. We should talk about reducing stigma on asking for help. And definitely we should involve communities in ensuring humanitarian needs, psychological support, and adaptation of internally displaced people. Organization of events that ensure unity between IDPs and local residents improves identity and emotional rehabilitation. We are talking about joint workshops, rituals, or festivals. There should be also educational programs. We should teach people the skills of stress resilience, active listening, constructive conflict resolution. We should work with the school youth. We should also provide support to the families of the military men. We should regularly communicate with them, provide social, legal, and psychological support. We should organize events to honor the memory of those killed in action. Those tools of social support will be in operation if the communities will have enough qualified staff that will be able to organize such events. Therefore, our task is to prepare communities for this work. The experts of the Office of Malta Relief Service has developed the programs of systemic support at the communities. It is important that the community should have all the knowledge to support its members, about where one can get help and when it's necessary to ask for help. If we take a look at different levels, then at the basic level we provide crisis support to people in need. We do psychoeducation at all the levels. We have support groups and emotional response groups. We also work with the issues of prevention and conflict moderation. We do integration groups and peace-building groups among the local residents and IDPs. Of particular attention is the social foundation of the community. These are educators, social workers, volunteers, state officials. These are the people who will take the lion's share in the area of providing support to the vulnerable members of the community. And our task is to train them and to support them in these activities. For them, we have prepared the training on first psychological aid, where we train people to identify acute stress reactions, where we can talk about the ways how it's possible to help people in crisis, where we model the situations and potential situation development. We also have a training on peculiarities of communicating with the military men, demobilized personnel, and the members of their family. We talk about the expectations of the military men, and as a result, we hope that it will reduce conflicts. The training psychological support in case of loss raises an important topic: how to provide support in case of loss. What should be the focus of attention in case of severe grieving? And a particular block is devoted to peculiarities of children's grieving. We also organize support groups and psycho-emotional relaxation for those people who provide support. We also provide supervision to psychologists, educators, volunteers, and all people who need such support while working with people. We do psychoeducation when a person should be referred to specialists. As a result, people get basic skills and knowledge that will help active members of the community provide support to people in need and identify cases where a person needs referral to a specialist. The next level is the level of school psychologists and people working in public and charitable organizations present in the communities. For them, we organize specialized or deeper training. We also provide supervision support. We also provide burnout prevention groups. And if the specialists face cases where they cannot, when they cannot work with those cases, they can send people to our specialist who will provide specialized support. A particular attention is paid to supporting those who provide support. A training, burnout prevention, and stress resilience is very important. We help people see burnout symptoms at the early stages. We tell how one can take care of oneself and one's colleagues. We help see resources in everyday life. We provide specialized support groups. We also provide supervision. By doing this, we try to distribute a certain workload and provide maximum access to psychological support. We also spread knowledge about psychological literacy. Honestly, this presentation has become a sort of a test for me. I didn't expect that it should be recorded presentation. What is important for me is to ensure live communication, to see the eyes of my interlocutors. Therefore, I invite you to one of our workshops where we can have that live communication and where we can identify what your particular community needs, where we shall have chance to share our experience and learn from experience of each other. Probably we'll be lucky and we'll be able to come up with some innovative solutions. I'll be happy to share my personal experience, and I will be happy to learn from the experience of my colleagues, from the experience of different communities and different ways of overcoming crisis. We cannot stop the rockets, but we can help people resist and be resilient. And if we do this, we are victorious. Thank you for your attention.
Hello, I'm happy to be here. I'm Olena Borodina. I'm a local manager of the Order of Malta in Kharkiv, a psychologist and a psychotherapist. And today I would like to present the topic of the specifics and results of teamwork of the Order of Malta Relief Service and healthcare facilities in Kharkiv from April 2023 to April 2025. And I would like to speak about the following: the context in which we provide psychological support to medical practitioners, the specifics of work and condition of the healthcare practitioners in Kharkiv, the meaning and importance of supporting medical practitioners now in the future, and main areas of work with healthcare practitioners in healthcare facilities. Kharkiv is the second largest city in Ukraine, and for over 3 years it has been living in super complicated conditions because it's very close to the front lines. We have constant shellings on the part of Russia, the destruction of civilian infrastructure, residential buildings, and critical infrastructure objects, and all that causes the atmosphere of constant instability for all residents, including healthcare practitioners. The healthcare practitioners in the city play a very important role in these conditions. They constantly face increased risks and requirements. To ensure effective provision of medical services and for the sake of general resilience of all residents of the city, the psychological support of healthcare practitioners becomes not only desirable but completely necessary. And this is the support that can be provided by the specialist of the Order of Malta Relief Service. Medical practitioners in Kharkiv have their own stresses, but in addition to that, they face situations when they cannot provide all the necessary help because of the external conditions caused by the war. And this understanding of being helpless in the face of human suffering causes a very deep negative impact on their psychological state, causing the feeling of guilt, disappointment, and compassion fatigue and emotional burnout. Kharkiv population feels distress and anxiety, and healthcare practitioners are no exception because they are a part of our community and they face the consequences of the hostilities in their professional activity. Constant threats to their lives causes the state of chronic hypervigilance and fear, which has a negative impact on the ability to focus and do their job effectively. The lack of staff and growing number of patients, as well as limited resources, causes emotional burnout. The tension which is caused by the necessity to take complicated decisions in conditions of limitations also adds to the stress. The increase in demand for medical services in conditions of the lack of resources makes the medical practitioners feel helpless and distressed because they understand they cannot provide their patients with the necessary level of care. Prolonged stress has a physiological and psychological impact on human body and can manifest as sleep disorders, emotional burnout, depression, and anxiety disorder. Medical practitioners are especially prone to these problems because of the high levels of professional stress. Chronic stress does not only make people feel worse, but also can cause various physical health problems, which has a negative impact on the ability of medical practitioners to provide their services. Early intervention and psychological support can prevent the development of chronic mental health disorders such as PTSD, anxiety and depression disorders. Provision of support now can prevent the potential long-term crisis among healthcare practitioners, which will have a positive impact both on separate persons and on the system of healthcare in general. The improvement of mental and physical well-being through interventions, individual, group and training sessions will decrease the symptoms of depression, anxiety, emotional burnout and stress. With this as a background, the sleep may improve as well as the general physical condition may improve. Timely provision of psychological support may help reduce stigmatization connected with the idea of asking for help and encourage more medical practitioners to ask for help without being afraid to be judged. The main areas of work of psychologists of the Order of Multi-Relief Service in healthcare facilities in Kharkiv are diagnosing psychological condition of the medical practitioners, providing individual sessions and consultation, psychoeducation, group activities for medical practitioners, working with the families of medical practitioners, and participation in interdisciplinary teams. Diagnostics of psychological state of medical practitioners is done with the necessity to take into account the following specifics: the context of the war and psychological condition connected with that. Also following the nonverbal signals, changes in behavior and emotional state. Conducting individual interviews, taking into account the lived experience. Importance of establishing the contact of and relations of trust in conditions of strong tensions. Diagnostics of psycho-emotional state is done using adapted and short methodologies like the depression scale, Spiller-Berger-Hanin anxiety scale, the anxiety and depression hospital scale, and the self-assessment scale for manifestation of post-traumatic stress disorder. Individual consultations to medical practitioners include provision of first psychological aid in crisis situations, work with acute reactions to stress and traumatic events, help in understanding and accepting own emotions like fear, anger, guilt, and so on. The development of coping strategies to overcome stress and anxiety in conditions of war. The support in adopting complicated ethical decisions. Provision of information about the resources of psychological support available. Normalization of reactions to stress. Training of how to use breathing or relaxation techniques, cognitive techniques to correct negative thoughts, the methods to process traumatic experience. Psychoeducation is done taking into account the following specifics. Clear observance of the principles of confidentiality is difficult because of the necessity to write the reports. When it comes to creation to safe space, we cannot guarantee physical safety. We have to go beyond the boundaries of the standard forms of training, and we need to engage the professional, the staff to develop the topics and formats of the events so that they are interested and engaged, and ensuring short express sessions. Training programs are flexible and are adapted to the needs and schedules of medical practitioners, which change in conditions of war. Group events for medical practitioners are held taking into account the following: creation of a safe space to discuss complex emotional states requires a lot of efforts. The lack of staff and their workload decreases the number of people in the groups. Organization of group events to prevent burnout, development of communication skills, and self-care. Holding support groups to exchange experience, ensure emotional relaxation and mutual support. Encouraging to shape self-support groups inside the facilities. Work with the families of medical practitioners who also suffer from the consequences of war. Includes psycho-emotional unloading and support of children of medical practitioners by engaging them into sports events, such as, for example, archery, together with the veterans. Participation of the psychologists of the Order of Malta responsive service is in the multidisciplinary team is aimed at providing comprehensive support to the clients. Psychologists of the order participate in interdisciplinary teams, and this work is aimed at cooperating with doctors and nurses to ensure comprehensive support to the patients. The psychologists of the Order of Malta ensure work with the patients and also team support, and the psychologist has a triple task: to work with the patient, to notice the state of the medical practitioner, and also to monitor his or her own state. So the work entails detection of cognitive and behavioral disorders, adaptation to disease, disability, or a changed way of life, motivation to treatment and rehabilitation, psychocorrection, working with PTSD, anxiety disorders, and depression disorders, and denials. The psychologists participate in the development of individual plans, adding psychological recommendations take into account the psycho-emotional state of the patient. They also do coordinate their work with speech therapists, labor therapists, doctors, and social workers. Evaluate the dynamics of the condition of the patient, discussing that with the team, and also discussing the psychological interventions. When it comes to the complexity of those tasks which are implemented by the psychologists of Order of Malta, that actually means that we need to cooperate with other organizations, because that helps have more possibilities, improve the quality of services, getting feedback from those people who have received support, facilitating the establishment of new initiatives and programs. The experience of working as the psychologist with the patients of the Prosthesis and Rehabilitation Center gave us a possibility to get access to expertise and knowledge. This is knowledge and experience and specific needs of people with amputations, including medical, social, psychological, and legal aspects. To engage volunteers and activists to provide practical support, to organize events, to raise funds, and to provide informational support, to extend the possibilities in terms of knowledge and skills of how to work with people with amputations, including the medical, psychological, and the social and legal aspects. Strengthening and reinforcing the efforts in advocacy activity, cooperation with public organizations can increase the impact on the bodies of power and ensure better legislative decisions in favor of people with amputations. The success of such cooperation was ensured by following such key principles as mutual respect and trust, transparency and openness, ensuring clear exchange of information, and taking decisions together. Clear definition of goals and tasks, specific and measurable goals of cooperation, regular cooperation and coordination, which ensures cooperation and interaction at all stages of cooperation. Priorities putting the priority. Our priority is the help to the beneficiaries of this support. I would also like to speak about the challenges of the reality we all are facing. This is physical danger. This is also threat to life and health, lack of staff, difficulties in planning because of unpredictability of external conditions, constant excessive load, emotional burnout, somatic reactions to chronic stress, risks of vicarious trauma, lack of internal resources for one's basic needs and the needs of one's family. Regardless of that, the team is working and improving their knowledge in various fields, extending the number of services and locations they are provided in. And to conclude, I would like to provide you with some statistics which shows the work done by the representatives of the Order of Malta during the last 2 years. So individual MHPSS, that's 857 sessions, including 468 beneficiaries coming for the first time. The MHPSS group, 27 interventions. Psychoeducation, art therapy, where we had 92 persons coming recurrently, and these are the paramedics, nurses, doctors, people with amputations and injuries. Statistics helps analyze and study the processes. At the moment, statistics cannot cover the scale of pain and suffering caused by the war. The war, just as wound healing, is a process and a long process. Here on this picture, you can see some members of our team, not everyone, but each and everyone has their own tasks. Some of them work with medical practitioners, some with people who have been wounded, some work with educators, children, and adults. The work of a psychologist is a very important process with unique and sometimes unpredictable dynamics and results. And while the war is the opposition of life and death, the work of volunteers and people in assistive professions, caring professions, is aimed at supporting life, and the Order of Malta service in Ukraine actually is working for that purpose as well. Thank you for your attention. We will be grateful for your feedback. Here on the slide, you can see the contact details of the Center of Psychological Support.